With the NBA draft now just 20 days away, we are going to give the class a closer inspection today with a look at some player comparisons for some of this year's top prospect. Hello and welcome to HQ Spotlight. That is Adam Finkelstein, our resident draft expert. I am Kyle Boone, and today we're going to talk about some player comparisons for this year's top prospects. And Finkelstein, we have to start at the top, right? The projected number one pick, that is Cooper Flagg from Duke. When you watch Cooper Flagg, whose game does he remind you of?
Well, 9 months ago, I was going straight Andrei Kirilenko, a 6'9" versatile forward and dominant defender who could really control the game off the ball with his ability to cover the court, block shots, get into passing lanes, just get a lot of stocks, which is steals plus blocks. But I think he's outgrown that comparison on the offensive end, really turned into more of an offensive alpha and playmaker than we expected. So that's right. I'm going with a little bit of Scottie Pippen here. Now, the jump shot is still a little bit of a work in progress. He shoots a different ball off the catch than he does off the dribble, at least when he's spotting up. And there are some questions about at just what level he is an alpha creator. Similar to Scottie Pippen. Is he the alpha without Jordan? I don't know. But I think somewhere between Kirilenko's defense and Pippen's two-way versatility and ability to be an alpha on almost any team in the NBA is a good starting point for where we can start to talk about Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to throw you a curveball here right off the top. I'm going to go with Derek White as my comparison for Cooper Flagg. And White is an elite defender. He is a very good passer. He's a quality shooter. He's not an all-star like I project, and I think a lot of people expect Cooper Flagg will eventually be in the NBA, but Derek White is so good at so many different things in the same way that Cooper Flagg is. And I think Flagg will elevate his team in many ways like Derek White has with a championship team that just won the NBA Finals last year, the Boston Celtics. Let's go to our number two prospect in this year's class, Finkelstein. That is, of course, Dylan Harper from Rutgers, the son of Ron Harper. Who does he remind you of when you watch him?
Well, I thought it would just be too easy to compare him to his dad, right? So I'm going with Cade Cunningham, a jumbo initiator, just under 6'6" with shoes on, with a long 6'9" wingspan. We kind of considered him a combo guard in high school. Cunningham was more of like a facilitating big wing, but it's become clear with both that they are primary initiators. Harper made that very clear this year at Rutgers, as Cunningham did in his lone season in college basketball. And the other key similarity, I think, is durability. We just watched Cunningham have an all-NBA type season in the first of 4 years in which he played more than 70 games. Like Harper, the shooting has been a question mark for Cunningham, and in there you see just a lot of similarities, right? Durability is going to be a key factor for Harper as well. The shooting is going to be a key variable. I'm not saying he's a non-shooter. I think some of that has been taken out of context, but he's 32% from the three-point line. He's got some mechanical issues in his base that he's got to clean up, but jumbo playmaker, super high feel for the game, just a incredible processor, very smart player, not surprising considering his roots. He's obviously left-handed where Cade is right-handed, and I think that may lead to your comp, Mr. Boone.
That's right. You walked me right into that one here, and my comp for Dylan Harper in this year's class is Jalen Brunson. A smooth lefty guard. He's an all-star for the Knicks. He can run the pick and roll. He plays with great pacing in the same way that Jalen Brunson plays with great pacing. I think Dylan Harper has to improve on some areas to reach the highs that Jalen Brunson has in his NBA career. I think he needs to work on his shooting. I think he could definitely improve his post-up game. That is an area that we've seen Jalen Brunson really thrive in at the NBA level. But no question, I think when you're talking about the impact that Dylan Harper could have in the NBA, I think it could be similar to Jalen Brunson. Fink, let's go to our number three prospect and another Rutgers prospect in this year's class. It's Ace Bailey. Many people expect him to be third off the board in this class. When you watch his game, who is the player comparison that you're going to make here?
Well, let me start with this. Initially, I didn't think the Tracy McGrady comparisons were as far-fetched as they now seem. When you saw him in high school, and specifically some of those games when he dropped 40, there was a game at Jersey Mike's Arena, which ended up being his college arena, where he was absolutely spectacular. But doesn't have the consistency to rightfully compare him to one of the great wing scorers of all time. So I'm going with Michael Porter. Like Michael Porter, Ace Bailey is a big wing, not as physically strong just yet, but a tough shot maker and a high level athlete. Same archetype as Michael Porter. You know what else they have in common? Horribly low assist rates and an equally unimpressive assist to turnover rate. On top of that, Porter, like Bailey, was one of those players who, although he was a high-level athlete, struggled to get all the way to the rim against a loaded-up half-court defense. So there's quite a bit of similarities in this archetype. And of course, Porter has gone on to have not yet an all-star career, but he's won an NBA championship, and he's right in position now where he's flirting with an all-star type season anytime on the horizon. And if Ace Bailey, who's widely considered to have a wide range of outcomes, follows that template, it does give him a path which could lead to a long and successful NBA career.
Okay, yeah, I like that one. My player comp here for Ace Bailey is Brandon Ingram, someone who I think is similar in archetype of Michael Porter Jr., a big scorer, someone who has a big frame, I think is a versatile shot maker as well. I think will walk into the NBA and be a 20 points per game type of prospect. And, I think the comp with Ingram makes a lot of sense in that, Porter Jr. has largely been relegated due to injuries to being kind of a spot up shooter, someone who is more of a secondary playmaker, not someone you're going to rely on every single night to carry the load. I think Ingram can do that in the NBA, and he's shown he can do that. Ace Bailey, I believe, can follow a similar path to stardom. I think he has all-star potential at the NBA level. I like the comp here for me, Brandon Ingram and Ace Bailey. Let's go to the next one here, Finkelstein. That's VJ Edgecombe, Baylor product in this year's draft, projected as a top 5 pick in this year's draft. When you watch his game, who do you see?
Now, I had to think long and hard about this one, Boone, because these comps aren't easy, but fans love them. And truthfully, NBA executives use them too as just like a point of reference. And for me, this one came down to Victor Oladipo. Oladipo, like Edgecombe, was a high-level athlete and ultra-competitive player who really came up the ranks as more of an undersized wing than a true guard. Now, he made huge strides. He had a 3-year career at Indiana, so it was obviously a longer runway than Edgecombe's 1 year at Baylor. But what is similar is that he had to evolve from an undersized athletic wing into more of a true guard. So we saw his guard skills continue to escalate beginning at Indiana and then continuing through his career in the NBA. And that's already a process that has begun for Edgecombe. We saw him make very clear strides this year at Baylor, not just with his shooting, although that was the easiest to quantify in terms of his percentages, but also in terms of being able to make pick and roll reads on the second side of the floor, sometimes even initiating offense, becoming more of a true guard, both in terms of the ball skills and the feel, while still having that elite athleticism, elite competitiveness, and a very high defensive ceiling. Edgecombe has a chance to be a terrific defender. He's not as far along that path as some might have you believe, particularly off the ball, but all the physical tools as well as the mental makeup is there for him to be a game changer on both ends.
Yeah, I like that comparison here. We are doing player comparisons for NBA draft prospects in this year's class. My player comparison here is Josh Okogie, who actually played for the Hornets this last year. The Hornets have the number 4 pick, have been linked to VJ Edgecombe. I think there's a lot of similarities between their games. I think he has been a defensive asset in the NBA, has Okogie, a floor spacer, a lot of athleticism, someone who has pogo stick legs and springs, can play above the rim at the same level. So yeah, I think if you're talking about potential floor case for VJ Edgecombe, Okogie I think could do a similar kind of prospect comparison at the NBA level. Next on our continuing list here, Finkelstein, of our player comparisons for top prospects in this year's draft, we're going to go to Trey Johnson, the leading scorer among all freshmen at the Division I level last year out of Texas.
Yeah, Trey Johnson is a tough shot maker and volume scorer. He's been that since he was an underclassman in high school. In fact, at one point, he was the number 1 ranked high school prospect in this class. He went on to Texas and he exceeded expectations in 2 areas. The first one was his shooting efficiency. No one was surprised to see him put up big numbers. We knew the counting stats were going to be impressive, both because of his talent and because of the role he was walking into at Texas. He was going to have the ball in his hands in the ultra green light. But the fact that he was able to make shots with the consistency and the versatile shot profile he did was something that I don't think many people expected. The other area he made a lot of gains was as a passer. Now, Cam Thomas came up the ranks with a very similar archetype, this kind of volume bucket scorer who is viewed as immediate and instant offense. The thing that's different about this is Johnson is showing at an earlier age the ability to add efficiency and to add passing. So those gains have really started to maybe separate from this archetype. And Boone, I'm going to be honest here. I was pretty confident about my player comps, but I saw yours on this one and I said, oh, I think his is a little bit better. So you go ahead and tell the people who you've got for a Trey Johnson comp.
I appreciate that. I was very proud of this one. I went with Malik Monk for my comparison here with Trey Johnson, someone who, I think you followed him in high school, was, largely considered a chucker, right? A shooter, someone who is going to go out and get you buckets. That has been Trey Johnson from his high school career to Texas, now going to the NBA, similar to how Malik Monk has. And he's carved out a really nice career for himself in the NBA. He has matured and developed into more than just a shooter. I believe, as you mentioned, the evaluation with Trey Johnson has evolved here over the last year. He's become more of a rounded offensive playmaker. I can see him following in the similar footsteps as Monk at the NBA level, becoming not just a shooter, but also a playmaker, an offensive weapon at the NBA level. A very fun draft in this year's class. Mr. Adam Finkelstein, thank you for joining me. Thank you, as always. For more on all things college basketball, Gary Parrish, Matt Norlander, and yours truly, be sure to subscribe to the Eye on College Basketball podcast or scan the QR code on your screen.